And by the way, you know, I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun.
Hello?
Hey, thank you so much for joining us at Civil Intercourse. Today we're going to talk about an introspective look at being woke and how we're all woke and we're just at different levels of wokeness. And then some of us are sleepwalking. And it's just a little food for thought in this climate that we're in. I do want to address real quick, there's a part where I'm talking about racism, and I just want to be very, very clear because I don't think I was clear on this. I do not believe that America was founded fundamentally on all racism and that every system is racist and everything is biased against minorities. I don't believe that's factual. At the same time, I do acknowledge that we have problems that we need to deal with, systemic issues that we dealt with, not in the sense of that there are laws, but practices that still need to be dealt with and issues that need to be hashed out, hammered out with a lot of good civil discussion, civil discourse. So I just want to make that clear as we're moving forward that's where I'm at, because it's a very serious issue. It's a very important to me. I never want to come across as flippant. And this medium, unlike social media where my fat thumbs are failing me, gives me the opportunity to provide a little bit of context. I am still working things out. Please excuse the sound and the production. I'm getting things going. But I hope that you'll listen and give me some feedback. Hit me up at anchor.fm/AB from CA and visit our website, civilcast.net, and give us your email. We definitely won't spam you, and we'll let you know when we start having some Zoom discussions and some other things like that coming up in the future. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, like I said, we're talking today about wokeness, and I want to get into it. I talked to somebody online. I was saying to them, a lot of folks aren't woke, they're sleepwalking. They're having a dream, and they feel like they're woke, but they're not totally awake yet. They're just kind of rousing around, and they need to be woke. And there are different levels of wokeness that I believe people get to and arrive at. I became woke when I was 15. I think that's the natural age. But I had a lot of circumstances in life that kind of came crashing down and made me realize, like, this isn't what it all seems to be. And like I said, I reached a level of wokeness, and it's progressed as I become more and more aware. As you get older and you see these circumstances and situations that kind of play themselves out, see how the media plays, you see how the different sides of things kind of angle themselves, and you're like, okay, I see how the game is being played here. I see what the narratives are. And yet you just have different levels of wokeness. I think the biggest moment of wokeness for me, well, I'll say the biggest, is watching the last 4 years of Trump and watching the power structure just fight, kick, and scream when an outsider came in, which was glorious to behold. But the real thing that came, years and years back is I was already pretty aware, and I had an idea of how things are. But that's, again, when I say you peel the layers back. But I watched C-SPAN. I got addicted to C-SPAN, and I had a situation where I could be in front of the not even in front of the television, because I basically was listening to it and kind of come over and see who was talking. That's kind of how I watched it while I would do work, while I was working on the house. And one day, I spent about 12 hours watching the Senate, and I had watched congressional hearings on the situation that it was in. I had watched 3 or 4 different processes of committees dealing with this topic and then bringing it to the floor. I watched them, vote on it. I watched the debate. I was just riveted. I'm not even going to talk about what it was. I don't want to even get into that. It's not a big deal, but it was, something I was fascinated with, something I was studying with, and I was, I'm a person who contacts his elected officials constantly. I'm personally surprised I have not been visited by the FBI, but I don't say anything outside of, what I'm advocating for, but which is lawful. But it's just, yeah, at some point they gotta be like, how many letters are we gonna get from this person? Well, don't work in politics for 40 years, you won't keep getting letters from the same person. Um, so here we are. I'm watching this on TV, and I'm taking notes. I'm reading papers, you know, all the way through the process. And after they had the big debate on the floor, and I watched the 12 straight hours of just nonstop, just arguing and debating. That it was late night, and I thought, oh, cool. I'll switch on the TV and see what CNN, MSNBC, Fox, the different outlets. I have this thing about, going to multiple outlets and kind of extracting the truth from different sources. And when I got to all of them, they were spinning a narrative that floored me. Had I not been so consumed with the actual watching of it all and seeing it all, I would never have known. I would have no idea that everything they were saying was a lie. Nothing on, and I'm talking about what the conservative news said was spin and lies. What the liberal news said was a lie, and what the people in the middle of the road said, allegedly, or in the middle of the road, said was a lie. And I start thinking about this, it's like, okay, if I can't turn on the TV and get facts, like I'm that's what I realized. And people call it fake news. I call it narrative news, and it's been that since now that I've gone back and done extensive research. I say research, looking at old media and reading it and reading it and reading it. And watching it and seeing like, oh man, and then studying back to the situations and just seeing how the narratives, it's all pushing narratives. They're not news reporters. They're storytellers. They tell stories and they push narratives. This goes back to the founding of even our country, when you had the two great documents that I love is the collection of the Federalist and the Anti-Federalist papers. You get a really hands-on look, but they're pushing their narrative and their reasoning, but it's more forthright. But it does go back. People are pushing agendas. You're arguing a point, but the argument was more straightforward. It was more honest. We're arguing this, and here's why I'm trying to persuade you. Now, the news tells you narratives. They don't give you information and tell you that they want you to think. They just spin a story. So it's a narrative. And so when you're looking at that and you're talking about being woke, if you're not realizing that you're not being told the truth by most of the media, and that they're ran by corporations, and that even truthful journalists have to fight to be able to talk to a real journalist off the books and say, why don't you guys do more truthful stories? Why don't you talk about more substance stuff? Let them, and they'll have a conversation about the producers, the editors, the various blocks, things that get in their way, the roadblocks that get them in the way of just being a truthful, honest, investigative reporter. I mean, I had websites up in the past where I put up all sorts of information and good stuff, and it didn't get clicks because it's not negative. It's not. I mean, this podcast is going to take a while to grow in and of itself, even if I do a halfway decent job of making points, because I got to figure out a way to also be entertaining. And I'm trying to have discussions, and people are like, oh, discussions are boring. I want a video I can put up and go, ha ha, I got you. You look stupid. I'm right. You're wrong. I'm not where I'm going with this. So if you're woke and you're like, I'm in the fight, well, figure out your level of wokeness. Where are you at? Let's peel into it. Let's figure out where are you at in your level of wokeness. Because if you say, like what we have going on right now, oh, liberals are the issue, they're destroying the country, da, 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 da. I say leftist, but if you're just taking everybody and throwing them into one side, you're not woke. If you're a liberal or a leftist or whatever, you're not woke. You're sleepwalking. If you run around saying, conservatives are the issue. Oh, I think I said that wrong. If you're a conservative saying liberals are the issue, or if you're a liberal saying conservatives are the issue, you're not woke. You're sleepwalking. You're like, I woke up and this other part of the country is trying to destroy us. Oh, no. And then you're on the other side. I woke up and the liberals are trying to destroy us. And I woke up and the conservatives. No. We're all angry at the same people. We're all angry for the same reasons. They have just framed the arguments differently. They have packaged the issues differently for us so that we think we're arguing with each other over some things that we're against. And it's not true. And I'm going to break that down more in other podcasts, but you're not woke. You're sleepwalking. And back to the news. If you're saying, oh, I don't trust that source because that's this type of news, or I don't trust any news. If you're saying my liberal news is always correct and I don't ever read the Western Journal, which they can annoy me sometimes too. But, they have factual stories once in a while. They have narrative stories all the time. You have to glean the facts out of them. I'm not knocking them. Everybody does it. But I'm just saying it is what it is. If you're saying my conservative news is always correct, that liberal news is just weak. Okay, my biggest thing that I do with people, depending upon what side you're on, I go find a news article that is relevant, that has links to the data that I am talking about, because I don't use articles to tell my opinion. I tried that on Twitter. It's a stupid way to have a conversation. But you're not woke. You're sleepwalking. If you are in your pit, if you are on your team, you're not woke because you're still playing the game. You're still being used. And I don't want to call people useful idiots, but we've all been a useful idiot at one point in our life or another. I was a useful idiot for the Democrats. I was one of these, as a very, very, very young man, one of these Antifa types. Thank God I became a Christian at some point and kind of grew up and grew out of that nonsense. But there's still that little rebel, crazy anarchist in me. That's the one that's screaming with all this voter stuff going on and all the free speech. That's the guy that's inside my brain going, what the heck, dude? These people are crazy. But, it's not the mellow conservative guy that's freaking out. He's like, trust God. It'll be all right, man. But then the anarchist is like, no, dude, it's time to get crazy. But I don't want to get crazy. I'm too old for crazy. So I'm going to talk, and I'll leave the crazy to everybody else because there's enough people in that market right now. Man, they got it cornered. I don't even think there's room if somebody did want to get in. Now, if you are one of these people that says you trust the government, completely, I trust the government. They of course they couldn't have had anything to do with all these crazy things that have been proven to be factual. No, I've never heard of the Tuskegee experiment and all these other crazy things that our government has done. You're not, if you're walking around and you're just like, oh yeah, America and apple pie and everything is wonderful. I'm not saying don't love, America. No, love America. Cherish her. She's the greatest country in the world. Just know that who your government is and know who we are as individuals and what we need to do. If you're also saying that the government is 100% corrupt, well, I hate to say this, but truth is they're not. There are some good apples in there. In my opinion, I think that, and I'm getting off topic with this just a little bit, with the government, you can't trust them 100%. You can't throw them out because we are the government. The problem with government right now is we think these people are leaders and some type of special people, and we keep sending them back when they don't do what they say and don't fix things and make things worse. I think a year ago we were $23 trillion in debt, and I think right now we're at $27 trillion in debt, and I don't think that's a good way for us to be doing things right now. Yeah, let me look. The 27 trillion, 894 million. We're about to pop the 28 trillion mark soon. 386,303. Oh my God, 872. And I mean, if you take a look at our debt, and I'm getting off topic, I know. 1960, our U.S. federal debt to GDP ratio, for those of you nerds out there who like numbers, it was 53.26. In 1980, it was 34.51%. In 2000, it was 59, and that was a bit high. And now we're at 130%. And so, we keep spending and not getting our economy going the way we had. All we had to do was open the economy back up, get it moving, and get that debt starting to pay it off and not be, a lot of that. China is buying bonds to bail us out of this stuff, so they own us. So maybe we want to fix that. So, yeah, I don't trust the government 100%. I don't think they're 100% corrupt. I don't think they're 100% good. And if you think either one of those, you're not woke. You're sleepwalking. And I need you to wake up. I need you to not walk off that cliff. I need you to wake up. If you say voting is useless, it's rigged, which it really is for the two-party system. They have a monopoly, and it's not a natural one. And we have tried as voters to give other people a voice, and we have big tech in this last election pushing us out. So, yeah, it's not useless, though. You can't say voting is useless. It's rigged. I'm not going to do it. I would agree with you to a point. But, you also, there's people that'll say voting is 100% flawless. Nothing ever goes wrong with our elections. We vote. Everything's secure. That's not true. If you think that and you're just like super patriotic, you're not woke, you're sleepwalking. I need you to wake up. Because here's the thing. You can think whatever you want to think, but I'm just going to say this straight out so that there's no misunderstanding. The Republicans and the Democrats cheat in elections all the time, and they will expose each other up to a certain point. They will battle within the rules with each other, and the Republicans are all too okay to be the party of second best, lose elections with honor, as long as they don't lose enough of them in there where they perceive to have power. They don't understand. The leftists are coming for everything. They've been playing this game, and it's worked for them for a while because they could power switches, and this happens. It's set up in a way now that's just not going to be the norm in the future. So if you think voting is useless and it's rigged, and you're like, I'm never voting, I'm not ever voting, my voice don't matter. If so many people had not voted for Donald Trump, though those machines would not, in those 4 states, would not have had to be turned off, and those extra votes wouldn't have to been brought in. Now a lot of people are like, oh my God, conspiracy theorists, whatever. You have to vote. It's the only way in the future the fraud will be exposed. You have to vote because you have local elections. You have things. It's too much. If everything is rigged, we're screwed. But they can't rig everything. I mean, ballot measures, you look at California. If you look at our ballot measures, you can know our elections are rigged. You know our elections are rigged. Look at how we vote on ballot measures. Look what they had to do for different issues. I'm not going to bring them up right now. I don't want to get banned. You look at how we voted on different issues, and then you look what they had to do to get those things passed. And then you look at the votes and who's running our state and the areas. California is a very conservative place. It's actually not even conservative. When I say conservative, I'm talking... I have my own version of what conservatism is. You believe in conserving people's civil rights, freedoms, and ability to travel, ability to make money, ability to raise their kids the way they want, as long as you're not harming someone else. And that's what a conservative is. California used to be very, very, very conservative. I'm not talking about everybody's, going to Sunday school, although it wouldn't be a bad thing even for myself to get back into and stop doing so much home churching. But you have to look at this right now, the way that our election system is, and just know that if you think that it's this way or this way, you're not woke. If you think, that this is dicey because people are like, what do you mean there's no difference between the Republicans and Democrats? What I mean is what I was describing earlier. They are in a rigged system where as long as you're not an outsider like Donald Trump or a lot of other politicians that came in and boom, we're gone just like that because they were good. They will not let you come in and change that system. They will fight, they will kick, they will scream, they will censor you. Big tech will come after you now. They'll shut you down. They'll call you a conspiracy theorist. We had 4 years of people saying that Donald Trump stole the election. Hillary Clinton still has not said, okay, I lost the election fair and square. I was a little bitter. No. Everybody goes, you gave a concession. Well, so what? She wouldn't even walk out to see her people that night. She was just too embarrassed because they didn't manufacture enough votes. They had enough done to take out Jeb Bush, and they thought Donald Trump was a joke and would never, ever get enough votes to win, so they didn't bother pushing the fraud. And they didn't have the election. They didn't have the votes. They weren't going to be able to find the votes. That's what happens. Go look at the Kennedy elections. Go look at the Chicago politics. We got governor races, presidential races. We've got history, factual, documented history. If someone tells you you can't talk about election fraud and you say you're woke, you're not woke. You're sleepwalking. If someone tells you someone else can't say something and you are like, okay, you're not woke, you're sleepwalking. If you're okay with hindering free speech, you're sleepwalking. So what I'm saying, why am I rambling on about this? Because I want people to not sleepwalk. That's how you get hurt. I need people awake, really awake, not awoke. And see, what we have now is a lot of freshly, how you startle someone from a sleep. Ah! We have that. Some people were sleepwalking, and a lot of people just got woke. And they're dangerous, man. You wake somebody when they're sleeping. When they're sleepwalking, it can go bad. And you got these people, they remind me of fresh Christians. Just to give you an example. They just realize that they are sinners. And they look at, just like I was describing earlier, like everybody else is like them and pitiful because they haven't realized the greatness of God yet. And they are zealous and fired up. Man, and they got that new sword, the Bible. We call the Bible a sword for those of you who are not Christians. And they walking around with that sword, lopping spiritual heads off left and right, messing up friendships they've had for years, alienating themselves. And they mean well. They're on a crusade to save. I've got to save the world. Everyone needs God. Everyone needs to know Jesus. Which is cool. Great, but you got to temper that a little bit, man. Like, focus that in. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And you need to not just, you got a little bit of knowledge, but you're running around acting like you know everything. And that's kind of where we're at with all these freshly woke people in America right now. They're just woke, but just barely woke up. They're just still sleepwalking or barely woke up. And then when the stuff happened with George Floyd, I thought a lot of people woke up. I was excited. And I realized, crap. They're buying into all this. America's always been racist. And America, no. Now you're just acting like a fresh Christian. You got a little tiny bit of knowledge. Because that's the problem with a lot of this new theory that America's always been racist and this and that, and the whole entire thing is about racism, is that it's not factual, but there is truth intertwined in there. And now the best lies are always wrapped around truth. And so, that's what's hard to unpack and deal with when you got these newly woke people. And so, I would ask that everyone would just be aware of where you are. How woke are you? Are you sleepwalking? Are you paying attention? I talked about earlier how I became aware of how bad the media was. I had 12 hours. I had all that time. I was in a situation where I was able to do that. Most people working every day are not in that situation. most people don't have the time or the nerdiness to go looking into stuff the way I did. They just don't. And, at some point, we got to look at ourselves and just figure out where we are. And I think the biggest thing, just as we move forward, that what I would ask anybody out there to do is to just have some civil intercourse. Find out where people are at. Don't assume. Wherever you're at in your journey of wokeness, don't assume things of other people. Don't throw people into boxes. Don't look at your neighbors, your family members, like they're a political opponent. Don't dehumanize people. Don't allow people to just throw people into teams. We're all individuals, and that is what makes America great. And the only way we'll get through these barriers and solve the problems that we have is when we start having civil intercourse, looking each other in the eyes, and discussing how woke we are, where we are in our wokeness, and become more aware. I know a lot of people don't like that term, but it is what it is. And I think we all have different levels of wokeness. So get out there. Be a part of the conversation. Have civil intercourse. And if you got something to say on the topic, if we missed something, hit us up at anchor.fm/AB from CA and drop into civilcast.net. Give us your email address and we'll hit you up and let you know when we're having some Zoom events. I really appreciate you guys stepping in and listening today. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your energy. And I hope that you're well. I hope that your health is good. I hope your mental health is good. And let's make this country as amazing and awesome as it can be by having the best civil intercourse we possibly can. We'll see you next time. Peace out.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And he said, I'll meet you outside. He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke.